Good morning. As I promised you, I'm going to experiment a little bit with the format for a course that in the future might be offered to Stony Brook students in the U.S. while students here are taking the course. And this is being recorded with a cloud-based software called Screencast-O-Matic. But I warn you, don't download and use this Screencast-O-Matic software because it requires JavaScript and it will be uh, disabled in the Chrome browser after September 15th of this year. But for the time being, this will give you an idea of what one of these lectures is like remotely. All right. Uh, we're coming up to the end of the semester, and one of the required readings from an earlier week was a report commissioned by UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon entitled A World That Counts. And it relates to the guest lecture that Alexandru Toma, Dr. Toma of the United Nations Office for Sustainable Development gave us, and to some of your earlier presentations on data visualization. So I'd like to use this short video to highlight some of the main points and go through the reading with you. You can use this video as a study guide for preparing for the final exam. This is the cover, and the title, as you can see, is A World That Counts, Mobilizing the Data Revolution for Sustainable Development. And this is the next page. I always like to look at these. It's clear here that this was, whoops, let's go back. All right. The United Nations Secretary General's Independent Expert Advisory Group put together this report. And here the members of the advisory group are listed, and including the research team and those who managed the publication. It was published fairly recently, November of last year. So let's take a look at some of the highlights. First, going over the executive summary. Data needs improving. Despite considerable progress in recent years, whole groups of people are not being counted, and important aspects of people's lives and environmental conditions are still not being measured. Now, this has implications. If you cannot measure something in this day and age, it's going to be difficult to implement a solution for that. And all of the problems, I think, of sustainable development involve the need to be able to measure and track progress. So, in the executive summary, they outline an urgent call for action, and the key recommendations are: first, to develop a global consensus on principles and standards; second, to share technology and innovations for the common good; third, to improve, to develop new resources for capacity development. Improving data is a development agenda in its own right and can improve the targeting of existing resources and spur new economic opportunities. Fourth, leadership for coordination and mobilization. And fifth, the executive summary suggests that, or the recommendation is to exploit some quick wins on sustainable development goal data. Now, the first sentence of this report I think, is very interesting. Data are the lifeblood of decision making. Just think for a moment about that. And it goes on to say, without data, we cannot know how many people are born. Basically, you can't know anything. So for policymakers, citizens, corporations, anyone involved in this effort to create a sustainable world, we all require data. And this chart over here I found very interesting. It shows the growth of excuse me, that was my phone ringing there, and as usual it was a Quango. But back to the chart, the trends here show that this blue line represents all surveys, and you can see there's been a huge increase from 1990 through about 2012, it looks like, in the number of surveys done. And survey data are commonly used by the news media, the press, academics. But the red line shows open access surveys. In other words, many of these surveys are proprietary. They're not open to the public. And this green line shows the increase worldwide in mobile cellular subscriptions. Almost all of the world now has access to mobile telephony. So this report calls on governments and the UN to act to enable data to play its full role in the realization of sustainable development by closing key gaps in access and use of data. This is a key point, and the gaps are between developed and developing countries, between information-rich and information-poor people, and between the private and public sectors. Now, here, this next slide, and I'm going to move my picture away. I put this up mainly because of this interesting graph. This is a graph that shows various dimensions of inequalities in access to and use of ICT services. And the red line, which is sub-Saharan Africa, basically the closer you get to the middle of this graph, the less the access to and the use of ICT services. So as with the globe that I showed you at the last class session, here you can see sub-Saharan Africa is near the bottom compared to other regions of the world, and the advanced economies are way out toward the edge. They have the greatest access. That would include South Korea. Now, I just urge you to, when you review for the final exam, take a close look at this basic principles. Anyway, I've had a little fun. I'm going to save my voice while I'm in the classroom. Enjoy this video and take a look at it again as you prepare for the final exam. Thanks.